In the year 200 AD, in the region of Nidia in North Africa, Hano and his wife Arishat were enjoying a peaceful life when the sound of alarm horns suddenly echoed. Thick smoke rose from the city walls, signaling an invasion. The couple quickly armed themselves, ready for battle. They knew this war would be extremely difficult because their enemy was the mighty Roman army. Before the battle began, the leader Jugurtha held a ceremony to honor the brave warriors.
We will prevail!
However, it was Hano who commanded the battlefield. He stood before the ranks of soldiers, raising their morale before the fight. On the other side, the Roman commander, General Acacius, was a seasoned leader. Seeing that the sea winds were too strong, he ordered the sails to be lowered and switched to rowing, leading the warships toward the city of Nova. Refusing to sit idle, under Hano's command, the catapults fired the opening greeting. A barrage of massive fireballs. The Romans responded with a rain of arrows. The battle quickly erupted in ferocity, both sides exchanging fierce attacks as soldiers fell one after another. As the distance between the two forces narrowed, Acacius ordered siege towers to be raised, launching a full-scale assault. From above, Arishat and the archers did their best to halt the Roman advance. Growing impatient, Acacius climbed the tower himself, cut the ropes of the ladder, and led his troops into the city of Nova. True to his reputation, General Acacius fought like a war god, swinging his sword relentlessly. On the other side, Hano fought with equal fury. Below, the Romans had already breached the gate and swarmed in like a broken hive of bees. Determined to take down Acacius, Arishat aimed her bow but missed. Enraged, Acacius ordered his archers to kill her.
Archers! There! Kill her!
An arrow pierced her heart, and she fell. Losing his sanity, Hano looked at his wife, only to be struck on the head and fall into the sea. In his delirium, he saw death taking his wife away, and could only scream helplessly in despair.
I'll wait for you.
When he regained consciousness, Hano found Arishat's body floating on the water. Trembling, he broke the arrow lodged in her chest before being captured by enemy soldiers. The Romans claimed victory, but Acacius felt no joy, for the battle had cost too many lives. He sorrowfully ordered the cremation of the fallen warriors. Flames roared amid the heart-wrenching cries of the surviving people of Nova.
Acclaim this city for the glory of Rome. Ve Victis.
Woe to the conquered.
Hano had now become a slave, branded with a red-hot iron on his back. Sharing his fate were Jugurtha and the other Nova people. All were taken aboard ships, bound for Rome. Seeing Jugurtha's arm badly injured, Hano used wood to brace it and ease his pain.
He's sailing us to something I cannot endure. I am ready to be taken to another place.
Stay here a while longer.
I remember well when you first were brought to us. A lonely boy from the desert, guileless, afraid. You embraced everything we taught you. You found Arishat's love. Your soul was replenished. When I die, my ancestors will meet me in the next world. Who will meet you? Hano. I am done. Do not let them change what you are.
Hano remembered fondly that Jugurtha was the man who had taken him in when he was a child. 16 years earlier, Hano was a young boy living in Rome. One day, while playing with his friends, he saw cavalry riders approaching in the distance. Sensing something was wrong, when Hano ran home, the nanny urged him to flee as far away as possible. He immediately jumped on a horse and galloped off in panic, wandering aimlessly until he found a new home in Nova. But now, Nova was gone as well. After the war, General Acacius returned to the city amidst the thunderous cheers of the people. The twin emperors personally came out to greet him.
Emperor Geta. Emperor Caracal.
General Acacius.
I have taken Numidia in your names.
that your dominion may eclipse that of every emperor that came before you.
Crown him with laurels, brother.
Eager to celebrate their victory with a grand gladiator battle, Acacius, claiming exhaustion, asked for leave to rest, but the two tyrants refused and even pressed their swords against his neck, forcing him to lead new conquests into Persia and India. Reluctantly, Acacius obeyed. Meanwhile, Hano was escorted to the outskirts of Rome and handed over to Macrinus. The innocent citizens of Nova were dragged straight into the arena. Their hands and feet were still chained, barely able to stand.
Behold the fate of the conquered enemies of Rome, the barbarian Numidians and their chieftain, Jugurtha!
While their opponents, a pack of bloodthirsty baboons with razor-sharp fangs, awaited. To make things worse, the beasts were provoked with darts and flames, driving them into a frenzy. Jugurtha, exhausted, could only kneel and pray before one of the baboons lunged at him. Hano immediately rushed to his aid. At that moment, Macrinus finally ordered the fight to end. Only a few people survived, but Jugurtha was dead. Elsewhere, General Acacius returned to his villa that night. His wife, Lucilla, rejoiced to see him alive. Acacius confessed that he could no longer endure the two foolish emperors, and had grown weary of endless wars and bloodshed.
To hear wives and mothers mourning their dead on that beach at Nidia. No more. I will not waste another generation of young men for their vanity. If I fight another campaign, it must be to depose them.
When will your troops arrive?
We land at Ostia in 10 days.
How many of them will be loyal to you alone?
All of them.
The emperors do not have the support of the people. The people are weary of the madness, of the tyranny. What is the dream of Rome if our people are not free?
The next morning, the surviving slaves were taken to the gladiator training grounds. The trainer, Vigo, promised that this place could turn slaves into gladiators, and that becoming a gladiator meant earning freedom.
I know this one. He eats monkeys.
During mealtime, the gladiators mocked Hano by imitating monkey cries. When training began, Mcrinus asked what Hano's native language was. Seeing him refuse to answer, Macrinus ordered the bald man to teach him a lesson. Vigo tossed him a pair of iron gauntlets, but before Hano could put them on, he was beaten mercilessly. Fortunately, he endured the blows well, waiting for his chance to strike back. Despite being unarmed, Hano's resilience turned the tide, and he eventually defeated the bald man. Macrinus laughed triumphantly, realizing he had found a natural-born fighter. In Hano, he saw both a burning hatred and the potential to become an unbeatable gladiator. Knowing about Hano's grudge against Acacius, Macrinus promised to help him take revenge, as long as he fought with everything he had.
Use your rage in my service, then you will have his head ready for your sword. Serve me, and I will serve you. Deny me, and you will die.
The next day, Senator held a lavish banquet for the two emperors. Macrinus also attended.
I knew the provinces were not enough for you.
I'm just here for the gains.
Ah, well.
You won't be disappointed. Rome has all the games that men like you like to play.
Men like me thrax men like us. I know nothing happens in Rome unless you've tasted it first.
Senator suggested that Macrinus pay 2,000 gold coins to gain a seat in the Senate, but Macrinus immediately refused. At the same time, the bald-headed guard brought Hano to the banquet, not to eat, but to entertain the nobles in a gladiator match. His opponent was Senator's prized fighter, a muscular brute. At first, the rule was to fight bare-handed, but Senator's son suddenly ordered the match to switch to sword combat. Before Hano could even respond, the battle began. He tried to persuade his opponent to stop, but the other man ignored him and launched a series of lethal attacks. Enraged, Hano decided to fight back with full force, driving his sword straight through his opponent's abdomen. Witnessing Hano's exceptional fighting skill, Emperor Geta became thrilled and stepped forward to ask about his origins. However, Hano didn't answer. Instead, he recited a verse from Virgil. This deeply impressed Emperor Caracalla, who casually gave him the nickname the Poet. Both emperors, pleased with the performance, rewarded him generously. Macrinus was ordered to grant Hano 2 gold coins, along with the promise that if he earned enough, he could buy back his freedom. Macrinus also revealed that he himself had once followed the same path to escape slavery. Meanwhile, Lucilla entered a secret chamber where several senators were already gathered. Acacius wasted no time and spoke bluntly. He had summoned them tonight to discuss a plan to overthrow the tyrannical regime and reclaim Rome. The senators all expressed their hatred for Geta and Caracalla's cruel rule and quickly voiced their support. However, one influential senator hesitated, calling the plan too risky. Under pressure from the others, Gracchus gave an evasive answer, saying that if Lucilla were to take the throne, he would naturally support her. The next day, the gladiator games at the Roman Coliseum officially began. Hano and the other fighters were brought into the city of Rome. Along the way, Hano witnessed a heartbreaking scene. On one side of the road, starving citizens knelt begging for food, while just beyond the wall, the nobility lived in luxurious excess. 2 worlds divided by a single barrier, yet completely apart. Acacius and Lucilla also attended the grandstand to watch the matches. However, Geta called Acacius to the front and asked him to address the crowd. Unable to refuse, Acacius spoke.
I am not an orator or a politician. I am a soldier. I've seen bravery in men and women during war, and even once in this arena. So if you ask anything of the gods, ask for that same bravery, because Rome needs it now.
Subtly reminding all Roman citizens that what Rome needed most now was courage. As his words ended, Hano and the other gladiators entered the arena. Their opponent was the undefeated champion, mounted on a fierce rhinoceros. Hano quickly devised a strategy, telling his comrades to lure the beast into charging against the wall. But one man in the group refused to follow orders. When the rhinoceros charged, he turned and ran, only to be tripped by his own binding ropes and thrown to the ground, where the beast gored him straight through the stomach, killing him instantly. Witnessing the brutal scene, Hano realized he could not afford even a moment's distraction. He drove his sword into the ground and bent down to scoop up a handful of sand. The sight shook Lucilla, reminding her of a legendary figure from the past. Meanwhile, Geta and Caracalla sat laughing in the stands, mocking the poem Hano had recited the day before, oblivious to Lucilla's tense expression. It was clear she had begun to recognize Hano's true identity. Still, this was not the time for her to reveal anything. The rhinoceros roared and charged toward Hano. Calmly, he flung the sand into its eyes, blinding it. The panicked beast crashed headfirst into the wall and became stuck. However, the fighter riding on its back immediately attacked. Hano used his shield to block, but was still struck down. His opponent picked up a sword and stood ready, awaiting execution orders from Geta and Caracalla. The crowd erupted, shouting in unison to spare Hano's life. Geta raised his thumb to signal mercy, but Hano refused such a humiliating act of pity. Seizing a weapon, he launched a furious counterattack and successfully drove his blade through his opponent. In one swift motion, he grabbed two swords and sliced his enemy's head clean in half, instantly driving the arena into a frenzy. The entire crowd roared Hano's name. When the battle ended, Hano returned to the resting area. The physician Lavis approached to stitch his wounds, while Macrinus cheerfully congratulated him for becoming the new star of the arena. Meanwhile, Lucilla returned to her chamber alone. The verses Hano had recited still echoed in her mind, stirring the painful memories she had tried so hard to bury. It turned out that Hano was none other than the son of Lucilla and the legendary gladiator Maximus. After Maximus and the tyrant Commodus perished together, Hano was still a young child, the sole heir to the throne. But power is a double-edged sword. Those around him were blinded by ambition. Lucilla could not protect her son from the dangers closing in. In her pain, she sent Hano far away. Never did she imagine that one day she would meet her son again. However, Lucilla did not dare to risk approaching Hano herself. Instead, she summoned Mcrinus, subtly questioning him about the origins of the gladiators under his command. Though Lucilla tried to act natural, her curiosity made Macrinus suspicious. He later went to a close friend for information and eventually learned that Lucilla once had a son who disappeared after the previous emperor was assassinated. If that boy was still alive, it could very well be Hano. Lucilla, unaware that her secret was at risk of being exposed, could no longer suppress her longing for her son. With the help of a senator, she secretly went to the arena to meet Hano. When she saw that Hano had grown into a strong, fearless gladiator, her heart was filled with turmoil. But after so many years apart, Hano's feelings for his mother had almost completely faded. Moreover, his heart was consumed by hatred for Acacius, the man who had killed his wife.
If your son were here, I feel sure he would tell you not to grieve him. For he would not be the boy that you sent away. That boy is dead.
His emotionless words pierced Lucilla's heart like a blade. She dared not hope for forgiveness, only wishing that Hano would inherit his father's courage and strength. Before she could say anything more, the senator urged Lucilla to leave the arena immediately. When she returned home, Lucilla found Acacius waiting for her in the courtyard. She approached him joyfully, telling him that Hano was their son. She also realized that the matches in the arena were becoming increasingly dangerous, and no one could guarantee Hano's survival. This filled her with deep worry. She pleaded with her husband to help him. Moved by his wife's desperate request, Acacius decided to accelerate the uprising, instead of waiting until the final day of the games. Yet neither of them knew that their entire conversation had been overheard by a maid standing quietly in the corner. The next day, the arena hosted a grand spectacle. The entire Coliseum was suddenly flooded with seawater, and beneath the surface swam deadly sharks. Two opposing teams appeared on ships, reenacting the Greek naval victory over Persia in the Battle of Salamis. As Hano and his comrades approached, the enemy immediately launched flaming arrows toward them. Anyone who fell into the water would instantly become food for the sharks. Yet despite the danger, they showed no fear. Under Hano's command, the team charged toward the enemy, successfully destroyed their ore platform, leaving them immobile and defenseless like helpless sheep. Seeing this, Macrinus cheered wildly from the stands. Chaos erupted as they slaughtered the enemy crew. The two ships gradually drifted closer to the grandstand. Hano picked up a crossbow from the deck and aimed it at Acacius. However, he was struck by an enemy fighter, causing the arrow to veer off course, flying toward the Imperial throne instead. Startled, Geta immediately called for his guards. The match ended, and the announcer declared Hano the victor once again. His fame had reached its peak. When the trainer furiously demanded to know who had attacked the grandstand, all the gladiators denied it in unison, leaving him powerless to act. He could only warn them that Geta would not let the matter go easily. Meanwhile, The maid from Acacius's household secretly met with Senator, revealing the couple's plan to rebel that very night. At that moment, Macrinus burst into Senator's mansion, mentioning Hano's string of victories. Senator had gone bankrupt and sold his house to Macrinus. Desperate not to be thrown out, Celis was forced to reveal Acacius's secret plan to Macrinus. That night, Acacius had no idea his plan had been exposed. He led a small group of silent soldiers into the arena, intending to rescue Hano. However, in the darkness, a swarm of archers had already lain in ambush. In an instant, Acacius's entire force was wiped out, leaving only him alive. As Acacius was captured, another squad quietly arrived at his home and took Lucilla away. At dawn, the two were brought before the palace. Geta raged at their betrayal, while Caracalla, completely losing control, demanded they be executed on the spot. Geta quickly stopped his brother and ordered that they be taken below instead. Later, Geta summoned Macrinus.
Thank you, Macrinus. In these last days, I have come to think of you not as a subject, but as a true friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much, but as a friend, I must counsel caution. Acacius is a hero of Rome. Crucifixion is for thieves, Christians. It's too common.
He is a traitor. He must die.
I agree. Let the gods decide his fate in the Coliseum.
The next day, as Hano was talking with the physician Lavis, he noticed that a name had been erased from the wall. When he asked, Lavis explained that it belonged to his father, Maximus. Seeing Hano's sorrow, Lavis led him deeper beneath the arena, to a hidden chamber, where the gladiators who had once resisted tyranny were laid to rest. On the wall hung the very weapons that once belonged to Maximus. The sight moved Hano deeply, awakening faint memories of his father. Just as Hano was lost in thought, the day's games began. To prevent another incident, Geta deployed a large guard unit around the stands and had Lucilla imprisoned there, forcing her to witness her husband's death.
For his treason against the lives of the emperors and the Roman state, General Eustace Acacius, an enemy of the people.
After the announcer read out Acacius's crimes, 4 warriors raised their swords in salute to the fallen hero. Acacius immediately charged into battle, swinging his sword with overwhelming power and swiftly defeating all 4 of them. Lucilla breathed a sigh of relief until she heard the next challenger's name.
From the vanquished city of Numidia, the victor of 2 conquests in the Coliseum, Hano!
Her heart sank into despair. Hano entered the arena with only one purpose: to avenge his wife.
Wait! Wait! Wait!
Pick it up!
After a fierce and exhausting fight, when Hano began to falter, Acacius called out the name Hano had as a child, then raised his right hand and knelt down in surrender.
Acacius has raised his hand! He has surrendered! Let the gods decide!
The gods have rendered their judgment.
Acacius looked at Hano, expressing his respect for Maximus, Hano's father, and his love for Lucilla. He told Hano that he hoped he would live up to his parents' legacy. His words struck Hano deeply. Overcome with emotion, Hano knelt beside him and chose to let go of his hatred. But Geta, furious that Hano had openly defied him, ordered the archers to fire. A single arrow pierced Acacius's back, and he fell. In anguish, Lucilla cried out in rage, cursing both emperors before the entire crowd. Hano, filled with fury, shouted,
Is this how Rome treats its heroes? Tell me! If his life has no value, what are yours worth?
His question immediately stirred the resentment of the entire crowd. One by one, people rose to their feet, shouting in outrage, forcing the royal guards to draw their bows and aim at the restless masses to restore control. Hano was chased out of the arena by several soldiers, but the spark he had ignited had already begun to spread. That night, angry citizens surrounded the palace, demanding that the twin emperors give them an explanation. Geta and Caracalla, panicked and clueless, locked themselves in their chambers, blaming each other for the chaos. Caracalla's pet monkey screeched incessantly, irritating Geta even further. Enraged, he threw his cup of wine in his brother's face. Witnessing this, Mcrinus calmly advised Caracalla to stay composed. But Caracalla, oblivious to Macrinus's hidden agenda, mistook his words for sympathy and vented all his anger about Geta. Seizing the opportunity, Macrinus whispered that Geta had decided to hand Caracalla over to appease the furious people. Terrified, Caracalla grabbed a curved dagger and went to find Geta, attacking his unsuspecting brother. As they struggled, Macrinus silently appeared, seized Caracalla's hand, and violently slashed Geta's throat. Soon after, Caracalla summoned the entire Senate, declaring himself the sole ruler of Rome and appointing his pet monkey as the first consul. The absurd announcement threw the Senate into chaos, but moments later, Caracalla turned and named Mcrinus, standing beside him as the second consul. At that instant, everyone understood what had happened. When Caracalla left the hall, Macrinus shed his facade completely. He brought forth Geta's severed head and announced that he would take command of the Imperial Guard. By now, the senators knew exactly what kind of man he was. None dared to oppose him. Macrinus walked toward the twin thrones, fully aware that his time had come. Meanwhile, Lucilla continued her quiet resistance against the growing tyranny. She secretly met with Hano, handing him the signet ring of Acacius and reminding him of the plan they had discussed earlier. After Acacius's death, Hano had forgiven his mother. He took the ring and embraced her tightly, but soon after, Lucilla was brought before Macrinus. He opened his robe to reveal a branded mark on his chest, the mark of a former slave of Lucilla's father. He had once sworn to rise to the pinnacle of power, and now, before him, only one obstacle remained: Lucilla and her son, the last of Rome's pure imperial bloodline. He decided that Lucilla and her son would be executed the next day in the arena. However, Macrinus had no idea that Hano had already begun to act. Hano summoned Ravi, revealed that he was the Prince of Rome, and instructed him to deliver the ring to Acacius's army stationed outside the city, along with a key to the prison. Ravi clutched the ring tightly and galloped away toward the military camp without stopping. While the loyal forces outside the city were quietly mobilizing, the priest came to see Hano, pulling out an emblem, the symbol of freedom.
Today, you're going to defend your mother.
Wood or steel, a point is still a point!
He then descended into the underground chamber, donned his father's armor, and began his fight to liberate Rome. Meanwhile, Lucilla and her allies had been brought to the center of the arena. As Hano advanced, a ring of guards surrounded him. The moment he raised his sword, the other gladiators roared and charged forward, plunging the arena into chaos. Realizing the situation was spiraling out of control, Macrinus immediately ordered the cavalry to suppress the rebellion, only to receive news that Acacius's army outside the city was preparing to attack. Forced to respond, he redirected his main forces to defend the outer walls. Losing all patience, Macrinus drew an iron spike and plunged it into Caracalla's neck, then grabbed a bow and shot an arrow into Lucilla's chest. Enraged beyond measure, Hano burst out of the arena in pursuit, but Macrinus had already fled. Seizing a black horse, Hano rode after him at full speed. By that time, Acacius's army had reached the city gates. Hano arrived and declared his identity before everyone present. The revelation filled Macrinus with fury. He had never imagined that the plan he had so carefully orchestrated would be undone by Hano at the final moment. Both men drew their swords, preparing for a decisive battle that would determine the future of Rome. Although Macrinus had lived a life of luxury for many years, he had once been a gladiator, and his combat skills were still exceptional. After only a few exchanges, he gained the upper hand, kicking Hano into the stream below and repeatedly thrusting his sword downward. However, the armor Hano wore proved impenetrable, unable to break through his defense.
Strength and honor, my son.
With Macrinus defeated, Hano stood before the guards and declared with unwavering conviction that he no longer wanted to see anyone die under the rule of tyrants. He vowed to turn Rome into a home that welcomed all people. After his proclamation, the guards unanimously lowered their weapons and pledged their loyalty to him. Exhausted, Hano returned to the arena. He had fulfilled his purpose, but in doing so, had lost everyone he loved. He was no longer a gladiator. He had become the new king of Rome. That's the end of today's movie. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more upcoming reviews. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.